Thank you. Thank you.
I feel like I had my Oprah moment. It's just, I think, what do I need? I need really fancy shoes or something, you know? So I'm so excited that you could come and join us. Amanda just came in from Toronto yesterday, and specifically to see you guys and to talk to you guys and give you her views, her life, you know? So it's funny because, like, just full disclosure, we are friends. And it's funny because I sat down and I'm like, what am I gonna ask her? Like, I think I know a lot of stuff, but I really didn't know. And so I'm gonna start with something that I was kind of surprised about.
Okay.
All right. So I read that you took biology and you were initially studying to be a dentist.
Yes.
What happened?
You know what happened? After I graduated, I went to my dentist, who's like a good friend of the family, and I said, "Can I shadow you for a day?" And I just, when I actually went in and just followed her around and saw what she actually did, you know, the idea of being a dentist, I think I really liked, because I had a engineer father, and he always really pushed on like doing something as a woman in sciences, and you could make a really good living, and I got good grades. But when I just actually was there, I realized, oh my God, I can't do this. This is not for me. I felt sick. I felt physically sick.
So wait, you had done 4 years? Like you'd finished?
Yeah, like not to become a dentist, but I had done sort of the groundwork of a science degree. And then most of my colleagues in class were either going to go on to either work in research or become a doctor or a dentist. Yeah, that was my crisis number one, my first crisis.
Are you gonna?
I've had a few.
I want to hear them. I want to hear them. No, because I find that interesting. I think like a lot of us, you know, have an idea of like what our path is going to be as a child, and then you're pretty sure, you know, and you like to invest 4 years. That's like 4 years of studying, 4 years of exams, 4 years of telling people, yeah, I'm going to be a dentist. I'm going to be a dentist. I'm going to be a dentist, and then graduate, get the piece of paper, and be like, no. Like,
yeah, and actually, I mean, I didn't walk around saying I'm going to be a dentist. And it's funny when I look back, I had this little book. I don't know if you guys have anything like this, but it was a little book that was given to me, and you put your class picture each year as you grow up, and then what you want to be each year.
No, I've never seen that.
And every year it said I want to be a singer and a dentist. But the singer part was like I never admitted to anybody. It was my little fantasy, and I didn't, to be really honest, like I don't think, it sounds ridiculous, but I don't think that I really thought further than school. Like it was just school. I knew how to do school so well, and I didn't really think about life after school.
Yeah,
And I panicked when I was even choosing my career, because I thought, what am I good at? Well, naturally, I love being in the school musicals, but that was never an option. Like that was not even in my realm of choices. That was like strictly, my parents said, that's like a hobby. You realize that? I'm like, oh yeah, I know. I couldn't make a living doing that. So it wasn't probably a very different path to like having the guts to go for it right from school. Like I really admire that.
I don't know, like do you guys feel like you had the guts to go from it right from the get-go, or do you feel like no, I think you are, and I also didn't, you know? So, all right, so you got there, you get to the dentist, you realize you are not gonna do that path. Did you have to go home now and say to your parents, okay, well, what was next? Like, did you go right into music? Did you know it was music, or did you do something else?
No. I actually fell into like a bit of a depression, and I just felt very disempowered because I felt like I kind of just would just get through school. It didn't come easily to me, so now I had to work in this field, and I didn't feel qualified to do anything. I wasn't like a pharmacist or a dentist or anything specific. I just had this general degree in science and biology. So I ended up getting recruited. They had one of those career days at school, and there was a sales and marketing company that was looking for outgoing, personable people. And so I landed my first contract with them and ended up working out in the field for packaged goods companies. So like for Pepsi and for Cadbury Chocolate and CIBC. And then as I became more confident in doing that, I thought, well, I remember sitting in in a sales meeting and seeing the people that were speaking, and I thought, I want to do that. Like the performance aspect I always really was drawn to. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be a marketing, I want to be a brand manager and be able to give presentations. So I ended up going back to school 4 years later to get my MBA. And I specialized in Latin America. I had a friend who was doing that degree. So I thought, that sounds cool. And then my favorite part in that, again, would be like the presentations. I'd say, okay, you guys analyze all the numbers. I'll give the presentation.
I'll be on stage.
Yeah. And then it wasn't until that I got into my first job in the corporate world with the MBA. And the only way I can explain it was like, I remember getting called in about 8 months into the job. I got called into my boss's office, and I thought they were going to fire me. I'm like, that's it? They realize this is not like I'm a full fraud. And he said, you know what? We're really happy with what you're doing, and we want to give you more responsibility. And that just set me off. I remember being in my suit, and I became like a 3-year-old kid, and I ran to a payphone, and I'm like, Mom, I got to get out of here. Like any other one of my colleagues would have been so excited that they're getting more responsibility, and I'm like, I just couldn't take it anymore. I felt like I had this deck of House of Cards, and it was like gonna fall.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like, what did you do?
So I went into crisis number 2 or 3, and I just remember feeling completely disempowered. You know, I just felt like I couldn't do anything, and it wasn't until I went through a whole mental health program. And one of the kind of defining moments was I was doing art therapy, and I did this picture of like a musical note and had all these like colors on top of it. There was a musical note, and they're like, what's that about? And she asked us to draw, what would a life be like without shoulds? And I said, well, I would like, she said, what would you do if you didn't have any shoulds? And I'm like, well, I'd be a singer, but you can't be a singer. Like, you can't do that. Right. And there were people in the group who were like, why not? Why can't you be a singer? I'm like, because, like my dad's always just said, if you want to just wait tables the rest of your life, then go be a singer.
Yeah, right? Right.
So I'm not going to do that. So, you know, yeah. So anyway, so then I guess in that program, I actually had the opportunity to get up on stage and like, and people said, wow, you really have a gift. And it was the first time that I guess I valued that I had something to offer. Yeah. And then from there I just went kind of the total opposite way, just full force into just walking into a jazz bar and saying like, I'd like to sing here.
and so like you didn't kind of do that thing where people, you know, have a day job and then they like just do their music on the side. You just went 100%.
I went 100%. I did have my degree, and I did go see a temp agency and headhunter kind of thing, and I got some temp work for that transition period while I was still knocking on doors and trying to get myself into clubs. And then about a year into that, I had always had an acting agent since high school, and I landed this role as the host of the lottery.
Seriously?
And that was like more than what I made at the bank as this associate director there. So I was able to leave my temp work, and that was like a 2-year contract. It was a 1-year contract turned into 2 years, but that really gave me kind of a consistent salary. And then it's funny, I remember I thought like, this is gonna be really hard to walk away from, but I don't wanna be known as the lotto girl. Like that's not what I want to be known as. And then the contract ended, and shortly after there, I think I landed my job as the host of Café Latino on Jazz FM. So then people started knowing me as that, which was like not the same salary that I was making on television, but it was much closer to, you know, my heart. I was sharing music that I loved with people in their living rooms.
And like, did you have already musical talent? Were you practicing all the time? How were you? You're laughing at me.
No, I'm laughing because I think we both know I don't practice, but. Okay.
But like, so like what was how did you develop your musical craft? Like, how did you get to like the place of being like, I'm a scientist, now I'm in the business world, now I'm a singer, now I'm a jazz artist. You know what I mean? I'm performing live. How did you make that jump? You know, there's a lot of people also that are out there kind of thinking like, how am I gonna make that jump from this other world to this new world that I'm dreaming about, but I have no clue, you know, what the first step is. How did you feel confident enough to go and talk to musicians? Did you just find one player? Like what was your path to actually making the music?
Well, that's a good question. I never called myself a scientist. I always felt like this is not me. Same with a businesswoman. I didn't feel comfortable. And also as a singer, I felt like a complete fraud because I'm not a trained musician. But I guess when I realized that this is how I'm not working, and after I was no longer Lotto girl, and I was just literally paying my bills with my music, I'm like, okay, I guess technically I am a singer now. But in terms of finding my way in the musical circles, I had a friend a Mexican guitarist who was performing at this little restaurant years before that I made the switch, and I just befriended him because he was playing all these Latino love songs, boleros that I knew growing up because my dad's Mexican. And so I started singing with him. So I had that relationship. So when decided I wanted to do my very first show, I convinced this Latin Alley Cats restaurant that I would be their Monday night show. And I had just gone up and performed with the house band. So when he said, "You've got Monday nights, that'll be your night," I thought, okay, I'm gonna make this a Martini or Martinez Mondays or something. And so I went back to Jorge, and I invited him to perform with me. And then I don't remember how I met those other players. I guess I'm not shy in that sense. I am shy, but not when I decide this is what I want to do. I think I just somehow introduced, I think I must have performed with the house band. I think that's what I did. I think the musicians that were there, I brought them as well as the Jorge, and we did a Latin evening. And then slowly, I guess I just kind of felt out who I felt more comfortable playing with.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of a trial by error thing when to see who you actually have chemistry with and can trust and feel good with. That's so important to me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I want to go back to something you said that I think that I think people will, not just I will be interested in. You said that I'm shy, but. And so talk to us about that. How is it that you're shy, and how is it that you're able to do this job that involves being on all the time, being on stage, talking to people, you're hosting shows, you're acting, you're on stage all the time. How is it that you are shy? How do you negotiate the space between being shy and not being shy?
Well, I don't think that, I feel like as human beings we're complicated. And when I was I remember very clearly, in grade 3, we had to play recorder and we had to go around in a circle and each of us play. And I remember I was shaking and I felt like people were laughing at me and I wanted to just crawl under the floor. But somehow when I inhabit a role or I'm in the music, once the music comes on, it just takes me to a different headspace. So I find it way easier to perform with the lights down and a big group of people than it would be to sit here right now and take out my guitar in front of you guys with the lights on. I would not enjoy that. Yeah, I would find that really hard.
Yeah.
Whereas my cousin, I know he would love take out his guitar at any family occasion and just sit and play us his songs. And if someone's man, I come up and sing, I'd be like, no thanks. So I'm not sure what that's about, but I also feel when I've met people, people come up and say, connect with me through my music, I feel it just provides this open space. I feel very comfortable. I feel when I'm on stage, I want it to feel like my living room. I want everyone to feel welcome. That's the only thing I can say. But yeah, I think I think that there's certain parts of me that are still really, really shy. Yeah, it depends on the situation.
Is there something that you do when you're going out on stage, or even when we're coming out to do this? What do you have? What are your tips? What are your ways of kind of getting past that edgy feeling?
Oh, okay. So one thing I do is I my band always makes fun of me because before a show I'm oh my God, on. They're like, Amanda, you do this every time and you're gonna be fine and you do this. I'm like, no, but this time I'm really freaking out. And I feel like if I'm really too calm, it's not a good show. And, but sometimes when your nerves take over, like before, let's say an audition that you just really wanna get, if there's too much on the line and you just feel like you need this and you're feeling like, and I'm feeling like my nerves are taking over, so I'm not grounded. What I need to do to calm myself down is I'll say, okay, good. You know what? I'm glad we're feeling this right now, me and myself, because it means that I'm alive and this is what you love to do. And I have to do that psychologically. Like I just say like, yes, I kind of embrace it and say like, I want this. I like this feeling. And then I find that once I'm in that audition and I'm improvising, then okay, I'm good. But the part right before where I feel like, oh my God, I'm gonna throw up. And I would like physically feel sick before shows or like in my first musical, like I just like feel sick. Yeah. Or I am sick before the show. That part's really hard. But I also will say, you know what, I'm so lucky because there have been shows where I have to go on and I'm not with my band that I normally am used to playing with, and that's really hard. Mm-hmm. So the times when I am with my usual guys, I'm like, you know what, I have all my guys here, they're so amazing. Why am I complaining? Like, I'm lucky. Like, there's times when I've had to go on or like by myself. So I try and find, something that I'm like really grateful for. And I also remember you giving me that tip of like finding something in the room, like if there's something going wrong or someone hasn't been nice or something, you're feeling off, to just like feel, okay, I love that color red. Or like just find something to ground myself. Yeah.
No, that totally helps me, you know.
Yeah, because that feeling of just like not having control over your emotions, like, that's really hard. So that's why I try and say, okay, yes, I want this, even though I'm not wanting it right now.
Well, you know, I'm always interested in what people do, and I remember somebody saying to me, because I was really nervous, and my drummer said to me, you know, are you nervous or are you excited? And I was like, oh yeah, they feel the same, you know, like that scary feeling feels the same. And ever since he said that to me, I just was like, oh no, I'm excited, you know?
Yes.
I'm excited, that's what this is. And somehow I've been able to convince myself that that's true. It's not nerves, it's excitement.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, we talked about your parents. You mentioned that your dad is from Mexico. I know that your mom is from South Africa, German, Russian descent. So, I mean, they both came to Canada. Obviously they both wanted the best for you, you know. What was their reaction when you decided to go into music? And would you say that they, like, has it changed? Like, were they supportive? Were they not supportive? And then if they weren't, are they now?
Yeah, so that's, I feel like my parents have always been very supportive, like coming to all my shows, like growing up, but they really wanted a good, stable life for myself, like a sense of security. So when I said, like, this is what I'm gonna do, I remember very clearly my dad saying, you're throwing your life away. Like, I didn't tell you to do an MBA, that was your choice, and you're just throwing it away. And yet when I'm performing, people always come up to me when my parents are in town, they'll be at my shows and they'll say, oh my God, when I see your dad, like, he's so proud. But I don't see that side. So I know they are proud of me. But I think even, you know, today they're just still very worried as parents, and I'm a mom of 3 and I'm married to a musician. So they worry, and for my dad, he came from a very poor background and worked himself up, like self-made man, like came from Mexico to Toronto by bicycle, was the first Mexican to make that trip with my uncle, and had nothing, and then like learned the language, put himself through university, became an engineer, started his own business like successfully. So he feels like he brought his family up to a certain level, and I almost feel like I'm like taking it down, living the lifestyle of maybe, I think that sounds very stereotyped, but.
No, but yeah, I think a lot of people think that.
Yeah, so for him, the financial aspect is very important, and that's how he defines success. Mm-hmm. So I always struggle with that.
But how do you define success?
Well, I wasn't able to come up with a good definition for myself until I recently took this workshop I was mentioning to you called The Savvy Musician. And he said to us, how many of you went into music for the money? And everyone's laughing because most people don't go for the money. And they said, but how many of you went into this business or into music to live a life of poverty? And pretty much, I don't think anyone would raise their hand to agree to that. So he said, like when he defines success, he sees it as an overlap of three different things. One of them is income. It's not everything, but if you're a harp player, for example, and you break your harp and you don't have the funds to pay for it, to fix it, then how are you contributing to the world? So like income is a part of it. And then he said, I just really like this. And he said, and then the other circle, he said, was he called it like the three I's, like income, inspiration. Like if you're so successful but you're not enjoying, you've lost the love of your instrument or your whatever your instrument is and the music, then that's not success. So being able to maintain a level of inspiration. And then now I'm going to forget the third one. I really like this, having an impact. And that really resonated because I feel like, yeah, you don't want to just like go through the motions of, getting up on stage and playing your music, but are you having an impact in whatever way that means to you? And so if you want to, so that resonated. And then he said the fourth I that he's come up with is like trying to use your skills, your gifts that you might not think of, that you might take for granted, that you just naturally do, but being able to use those skills to maintain, like to be able to maintain your career as a musician, but have some other sources of income. And I think that's really interesting. And I think that's very forward looking in terms of like, so that, because for me, I didn't ever go into music for the money or because I had to do it. So I don't ever want to be in the position where it's like, I have to take this job even though they're not nice people or I don't want to do it. Because I want to have that love. I feel like that's what I can offer on stage is just my energy. And that I feel good, my musicians feel good, and then the audience naturally feels good too. I think that's why it's not like I have all these vocal gymnastic things. Like that's not my thing. So, so being able to have a life where you're not like feeling choked by your finances, you're able to pay your bills, and that you're able to use your full potential to, maybe it's the music and maybe it's something else alongside with it, or maybe you are able to do it fully with just the music. I think everybody's different, but just being able to embrace who you are and what your gifts are, I think that's success.
So like, how do you reconcile being an actress, being a mom, being a singer, being a host, being a producer? Like you put together these concepts and you shop them to television, you make film. Like how do you reconcile doing all those things? And do you ever feel like you should focus?
Oh, I think that's such a good question because I'm in that right now. And actually, I don't even think I told you this, but I did make a decision recently. Yeah, so I remember about 2 years ago going to meet with this business investor man and asking him for advice. And he said, you know what, the more I talk to you, you're really nice, but you're kind of all over the place, and I don't think you're ever going to reach your dreams of the musician.
Bad man.
Yeah, no, but if you're dabbling in all these other things. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. You know what? I don't know, a lot of people have been telling me that, but it finally kind of resonated. But then fast forward 2 years, I think it's easy to say that to somebody if you have a stable job, right? But as a musician, I struggle with it because if you make I made the decision that I didn't want to be doing certain like clubs where we're not paid like even a minimum amount. If I want to be able to play and sell out the Winter Garden Theatre or Kerner Hall or the National Arts Center, if I want to be able to sell those out, then how can I be playing these other places? If people are going to know that they come see me for $10, then why are they going to pay $60 to see me? And like that, for whatever reason, maybe that's right or wrong, but that was the decision that I made. So I'm very selective with what I'm doing. But then I'm limited with how I'm going to make a living if it's just going to be music. And I don't want to be on the road right now with my 3 young kids. So having said that, I'm big into simplifying. And I think I've always struggled with trying to do too much, fill up my day, and feel like maybe we can do all those things, but maybe not all at the same time. And one decision that I made recently was I had been, the last couple of months, just been pulled into so many different auditions. And I'd be like in the middle of preparing like a music project, which I feel for my music I have more control over. Whereas acting has always been like, okay, you've got an audition tomorrow and it's for this role and here's a script. And if I happen to meet the kind of look of what they're looking for and I have the, like, I can play the role, then I might get it. But I'm not, it's not me going out and producing this film. So, so I recently just said to my agent that, I said, you know what, I think right now I don't want to, like, don't call me for like XYZ commercial or principal part, like unless they're looking for a Mexican singer, you know, like, and it's a really juicy role or like something that I can really dig my teeth into. I don't want to have to keep dropping everything I'm doing and then waste, like go there, learn, like I'm not going to go into an audition kind of half-assed knowing it. I either going to do a really good job and put the time in to learn it, which means dropping everything that I'm doing at the moment. And I think I'm going to wait to produce my own film or TV or whatever, a theater thing project. And like, or if something comes up, that's great. Like he just did call me yesterday and say, I've got this thing and it's, what would you try? What can I submit you? And I said, sure, it sounded really great. But I just feel like the chances that I'm really going to land something, and if I do, it'll be like maybe 1 or 2 days of filming. I feel like I have had to make some choices lately. So that's kind of a long way around your question, that I do think you can do all those things, but maybe not all at the same time. And right now I need to focus on like getting these musical projects off the ground.
And also, like, I know that this is your last musical project,
yes.
Right? So Amanda Martinez Mañana.
Yeah.
So, well, tell us, like, how did this come about? What is it about? I guess that's probably not the most important sheet. It's gone.
How did this project come about? Well, I had been listening to a lot of music, and that was produced by this producer, Javier Limon from Spain. And I was given a gift of this Ladino singer, Yasmin Levy. And I listened to it, I'm like, this is so beautiful, but it has that same kind of vibe of Javier Limon. And I turned it over and it was produced by him. And I thought, okay, that's a sign. I'm gonna contact him. So I reached out to him and I didn't hear back for a couple of months and I just thought, okay, I guess he's not giving me the time of day. But then I got a call that he'd just been really busy and he'd love to meet with me. So that's how that project happened, is I had been writing with some different, like going down to Miami, writing with different people. So I had some music, but I thought for this album, I don't want to use the same producer that I've used. I want to do something a bit different. And that was the one guy whose music I just really adored. So that was the seed for that.
What number CD is that?
That's only number 3.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, some of us have had no CDs, right?
Right,
So,
yeah.
No, number 3 is great. But it's okay, what was the catalyst for the first CD? And like, how did you fund it? How did you finance it? Like, how did it actually get made, you know?
So the first CD, I remember they'd say like, when are you gonna put your CD out? We need a CD. And I'm like, I'd always have an excuse. And this one woman said to me, Amanda, you're gonna go bang your head against that wall, then you're gonna come back and then you're gonna bang it against there. And I think she's just saying like, I'm just keeping myself stuck. You just have to take the plunge. Because I think especially for the first, you have all these ideals of, or I did, of like how great you want it to be. And then I was putting all this pressure on myself and I thought, well, I don't have a full amount of music that I've written. So then I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to do it with what I have. Half of the songs will be like covers that I've just grown up listening to, and half will be songs that I've written with my band. And so that's what I did. And in terms of how I funded it myself with the money that I earned as the Lotto girl.
Yeah. So your money is going somewhere. So okay, that was the first one.
Yeah.
The second one, what happened? Did you make your money back? Did it work? Like, did that?
Yeah. Well, back then I remember going to like Sam the Record Man was the big store in Toronto, and I just remember going with my CDs and like knocking on doors and like convincing them to let me put them in on consignment, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they sold really well, like because they would play it in the store, and people would. So I think I sold a lot more than I thought I would. But I never thought like a business person. I never had like a break-even point or like a, my little business plan. I didn't. So,
even with an MBA.
Yeah. But I feel like the skills that I had that kind of came naturally to me was I was in sales. So I just felt like, oh my gosh, this is so funny because I'm used to getting these cardboard boxes with chocolate bars that I would go into Shoppers Drug Mart and Walmart, and I was used to going in and upselling the client on product with my chocolate bars, and then I got these boxes back with my CDs. I'm like, same thing, but it's my music. Yeah. So maybe the difference between myself and maybe the average musician is that I didn't take it personally. Like I really saw it as this separate thing. I'm like, this is really good. You gotta try it. Whereas I think that's really hard. This is my art. This is me putting my heart on the line. I didn't see it like that. I really was able to kind of see it just as like, this is like my chocolate bars. And I can sell chocolate bars.
Were you on your own? Like, did you have a team of people helping you, or was that just like you on your own, shopping everything?
Yeah, that was me on my own, and then I met someone that was working at Jazz FM as an intern, and she ended up working with me. I was always commenting on how organized she was. I'm a bit obsessive with like noticing people that are really naturally organized. And so I'm like, I love your handwriting, you're so organized. And then I said, would you help me? I want to put together a resume to get an assistant. So I think I gave it to her to see if she could put it up at her school or something. I think she was a graduate from Ryerson. And then she came back and she's like, I realized like all of these things, that's me. So she's like, can I be your assistant?
That's funny.
That's how it started. Yeah, so I worked with her kind of one-on-one. It was like I found someone that would help me do my web design. And then I had met Richard at Feldman about another artist and convinced him to take me on as his artist. So that was it. He was an agent, my booking agent. Yeah.
So at what point would you say that you realized like you needed, like where were you in the journey when you were like, I can't do this by myself. I need help. I need to have someone help book me. Like how many years in had you been working on your own, making all the calls?
Oh, well, I started in 2001, and then I put my first CD out in 2006.
Okay.
And then I decided around then that I don't want to be doing like background music. I don't want to be in a club where people are talking. I want to be on a stage in a theater, like not just like, oh, you have to look at me, but more just like I love that idea when the lights go down and you're in a theater. Like that's just so magical.
Yeah.
So around that time, I produced my first big theater show in Toronto, and that was a lot of work. And I remember bringing in people to help with that. And then when I started getting bookings, I feel like maybe that's when I felt like I need help. I can't keep up with all the administrative side that's coming up.
Like that's one of the coolest things about you. I'm always watching you like take on this project, and you're shopping this idea to this network, and you're producing this show. It's like I can't even conceive of doing that. Like I'm lucky if I can think of like putting together a concert, And so like, do you feel like you have is there like a different brain? Is there a different Amanda that does that? Is it also the same way that you were able to sell the chocolate and to sell the CDs? You just feel like, well, I'm just going and I'm selling this product. It's a concept. Because like what you do is very unique. I don't see a lot of artists creating and selling in the way that you do. Do you feel like you have to become a different person, or is it just again more of that training from your product sales?
Do you know what? I wish I could say that it's from my training, but I don't know if you're getting at this, but I remember being a little girl and saying to my sister, can I clean your side of the room? Can I please organize it? And I like order. And I remember when I first had graduated from the biology degree, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? And just being in like this depressive state, like feeling completely overwhelmed and disempowered. And I remember one of my teachers in high school had said, when your work is organized, your brain is organized. And I remember taking out a book and just deciding, okay, I'm gonna try and get a job. My idea was I was gonna get a job in before I landed that the sales and merchandising job. I was thinking I'm gonna go get a job as a sales rep for a pharmaceutical company. So using my science and sales. And so I just started took out my book and I started making a list of all the companies I'm gonna contact, and then like making like creating order really was what I was doing, and like writing down dates, like when I called and follow-up dates. And then once I did that, I just felt like, and that really changed the way I felt. And I feel like once I did that, all of a sudden these things started happening. Like, and so that same thing I do when I'm feeling like, oh my God, I want to do this and this and this and this. I'm like, okay, let's just focus. What's the most important thing right now I need to work on? And then how can I organize it so I feel good? So binders, like binders that you use in school. I remember thinking that recently. I'm like, why am I not using binders? Like we do that all through school, and that like for work, I just forget about that there's such thing as a binder. So that's like one tip that like I'll share is that when you go on the road or you're touring, just to be able to keep like a binder with each of your tour dates, with everything like your contract in it, and then it just makes it so nice and easy, and then you feel confident because it's like all there. Whereas if you're just throwing everything in a box, which I think a lot of us do because we just don't want to deal with it, then like of course you'll feel like your self-esteem feels so low because it's like this box of papers, and then you don't want to deal with it, and then you're avoiding it and you feel bad about yourself. But as soon as you just like take out the box and just start organizing it, you realize that this is like a lot easier than I thought. And it can kind of be fun once you get into it. It sounds like gross, but you can kind of get into it.
She really does get excited about this stuff. But I agree, like I also get that relief when things are neat and tidy, but it doesn't mean that I'm always neat and tidy, but I just know that creates that feeling for me. You know, one of the things we've talked about, we've mentioned mental health, we've mentioned feeling depressed, overwhelmed, disempowered.
Yes.
You know, what do you do on a daily basis to take care of yourself? What is your self-care routine so that you're here with us and that you're feeling well? Like, what do you do every day?
So every day, ideally, every day, the days I feel really good, I have like cleaned up after my kids have left, like do my little 5-minute cleanup. So things are in their place. And then I've gone for a jog or a walk, like gotten outside. That I've done a little bit of yoga, like even if it's 10 or 15 minutes. And lately I find sometimes I'm like, oh, but I have so many things to do. Like I just want to get going. But what I'll do is I'll light a candle, and that just puts me in a different headspace. And then I put my candle on, and I also put on, like I just Google relaxation music, and then I feel like I'm in a spa. It just kind of, I'm just gonna take, and I might even turn a timer. I'm like, Amanda, all you have to do is 10 minutes. And then usually 10 minutes turns into 15 minutes. But you know, once you start something that you feel, this feels really good, and then the voices of like all those things you have to do kind of calm down. And then, yeah, that's a big thing. And then also for me, because I'm also very naturally wired, I make sure that I eat regularly, like make sure to like take time and eat a proper lunch and try and think ahead. My biggest thing that I still struggle with is I don't think ahead. So trying to be a planner and giving myself extra time for things, it just feels nice. You know, and I always laugh when I would do, like, let's say I did land something on a TV show. They give you your trailer, and you know your clothes are all laid out for you, like what you're gonna wear, and then they're like, can I get you anything? Not that I don't like people waiting on me, but I'm just saying that, like, I feel almost like you kind of need to treat yourself the way you would treat someone that you thought like deserved to be, that was important, like thinking of yourself as an important person, that you're important, rather than like, oh, I don't really need to do this, I don't have time, and just stand and eat, you know. Yeah. Like really trying to like, yeah, treat myself the way I would treat a friend.
Those are such good tips, you know. I'm wondering, like, what percentage of your day is admin and what percent is music?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, right now, I feel like 60% of my day, no, 75% of my day is admin. But one of the things that I'm working on that I feel like I want to share with artists is to really plan your day so that before I even open my computer, that vortex, to put my half an hour in of, like, for me it's like practicing guitar or working on something musical before I even get into that, because I feel like once I open that computer, it's like I just can't leave an unanswered email. I can't, like, it's like I want to check everything off. And it's very difficult to get out of. So I thought, like, just before I even am allowed to do that, I have to do my jog, my yoga, and my guitar exercises. And then also, for me, I don't like to compose because I feel it's like, it's just all my worst enemy of myself is on myself. So I like to book meetings with musicians that I'm going to work with, and then once they're at my house, then I'm not going to start doing email. So I have blocked that time off to work on songwriting.
What a good strategy. Yeah, I might steal that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good because it's so easy to just kind of get caught in, oh no, I'll get this call or I'll send this email and then, or, it's not a good song anyways, I'll just move on to something else. Do you ever, like at any point, were you somebody that was like writing every day and doing it on your own, or you always kind of felt like you needed somebody, to kind of give you a little inspiration to do it?
Well, when I was working on my first album, I was single. Had my own apartment, no kids, and so at the end of the day, like after dinner, I remember I could in the evening put on a candle, light a candle, and sit with my guitar, and I could come up with stuff. But now, like my kids will come downstairs. Oh, what are we doing? Is it a party? Like why? What's the yeah, right? So yeah. Whereas I don't know. I think that like my husband, who's a musician and went to school for music, I feel like that it would be more typical that a musician would get lost in that's the part they enjoy. And that like for him, it's really hard to to get himself to like take care of his admin.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's like for you guys, but I would just say that the part that you want to avoid, whether it's the admin or the music, hopefully not the music, that you'd find some way to like make it fun for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, or use those tricks, whatever tricks can.
I love that idea of booking it.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you some questions. Just, what's your biggest fault?
That I don't plan, or that I don't plan, and that I'm very self-critical. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What do you love most about yourself?
Oh, that I'm very optimistic, maybe foolishly so, but I do think I wake up and I'm like, it's a new day, and this day is going to be different.
That's good. Yeah, that is good. So we already talked about what your definition of success is. What do you envy?
Oh, what do I envy? I think I envy people who are able to just like go forward and move forward, take action, and not let all that other emotional stuff get in the way of what they want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So you felt like you're not able to do that.
I am sometimes able to do that, but I don't do it naturally.
Yeah.
Like I struggle with that.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you regret?
Oh, what do I regret? I regret the times when I've fallen off the bandwagon, and rather than speak nicely to myself, I've just like dug myself deeper into a hole and then wasted a lot of time. Like, where I could have, like, if I had just said, okay, if I would have spent 15 minutes every day, I would have like so many nice new songs now. Or maybe they wouldn't be nice, but I'd have material that I could say, and also I regret not having done that with the guitar. Like for years I've been saying, oh, it's too late. Like I wish I would have started when I was 19 or whatever. It's like, well, all that time I've been complaining. I could have been just practicing. That's my biggest regret, actually, because I literally, when I see, especially women like with an instrument, and they're just accompanying themselves, I just think that's so empowering, and I get really upset. I think, oh, like, I wish I could do that. Yeah.
What decision did you make that you really celebrate? So, like, what thing that you do and you're really proud of yourself for having made that decision?
Oh, well, recently, like just being honest with my agent and saying, I don't want to go out on those auditions anymore. Like I don't have that kind of time and to waste. And also I do feel proud that I did go for my dream. Because I feel like most of all this, the people that I've met through my life through music, like I would never have met them. Like that was a side that I gave myself permission to share.
Yeah, what did you think about the music industry back when you started and yourself in it?
Oh, I guess I felt like an outsider. I remember like going to Lula Lounge and everybody kind of knew each other, and I felt like this outsider. Like, who am I to want to be a musician or to think I can join in that club? And I also felt like there were all these other people that were going to decide whether or not I could have a career. And I feel now that you decide how you're going to make your career, and no one's going to do it for you. So you need to just give yourself permission, or like to just, I feel like if you have a dream, it's there for a reason. Like, go for it. So yeah, don't wait. Like I remember like that idea of like being discovered. Like I think you have to discover yourself and discover what your gifts are to share, and give yourself, like, you're the one that's up to you.
Yeah, it's a good tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, some good advice. So here's another question. What looked like a failure at the time, but now with retrospect, you are able to see that it was a good decision or a good experience? Do you feel like you've had a lot of failures, or do you even feel like you have failures, or do you kind of feel like, wow, this happened for a reason?
Well, I think that I can't say, oh, God, I'll probably get off here and then think, oh, I should have shared that or that. But right now, like, nothing comes to mind, which kind of tells me that I've been playing it safe. Because I think that in any great career, you need to be taking big risks too. But that does remind me of something. I think that in the past, but that doesn't answer that question, but I'll share it anyway. This just comes to mind that I think I had, when I jumped into music and just decided, okay, I'm just gonna do whatever it takes, I think I had this attitude of, you know what, I'm just gonna like invest in this, like it's worth it. I don't care, I'll just find a way to fund this and I'll find a way to fund that. Whereas now, I'm much more discerning. Or for example, like I would say I want to go to this trade show, and I'll just pay for my whole band to go. I wouldn't do that now. I'm more money conscious now. I have a family, and I think I was foolish with just like, okay, whatever it takes, I'm just going to make it happen. Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I do hear you.
I don't think that answered the question.
No, it does. It does. Like,
that's what comes to mind.
I think what you're saying is, you know, back in the beginning, you were willing to just kind of like invest more, not haphazardly, but you probably didn't have like a long range on what financial health looked like as a musician. And now you're kind of like tightening up all of those pieces and actually making it, okay, no, this may not be the best decision in the long run. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely would say that I went through a very similar path, you know. Let me ask you something. Are you happy?
Am I happy?
Yeah. Are you happy did you make the right choice? Look at her teeth. Look at the smile. Should she have been a dentist? Great smile. Maybe you should have been a dentist. But are you happy? Did you make the right choice?
I think I made the right choice. I think there's different ways I would approach things differently now. You know, you only can do what you do the best with what you know at the time, and then hopefully you learn to make different choices. So. Yeah, I recently was at the dentist and she's like showing me, no, there's still like plaque here on your kid. You got to really get in here for your kids. I'm like, oh my God, so thank God I wasn't a dentist. But yeah, I think it's like an ongoing journey, right? So every day is different, and every day I just hope that I'm trying to like learn from yesterday and make different choices.
Well, you said like, you know, there are things that you would do differently. So we know now that you wouldn't invest like maybe as much like financially. What other tips do you have for our students or anybody listening that's thinking of doing this, thinking of bringing their career to the next level? What would you say? I know that you have some ideas on keeping a better organized office, and you spoke a bit about that. What other types of tips would you give people?
Yeah. Oh, so one thing. So because I made that switch from business to music, I always felt like I said, like a fraud. But now I'm thinking, you know what? I actually have an MBA. So why am I not using it? Like, how can maybe I can empower artists from a business standpoint, because I don't think like a typical musician might think. So one thing that I want to let students know is to make sure that you have a system. And I think everyone's system might be different. Like what works for me might not work for you. But just so long that you have like a routine or a system, so that you're touching on all those different things that are important, like practicing, making those calls if you want to be on stage performing, like booking. Or if you want someone else to do it for you, then making calls every day to make meetings with people that do that. Having a system for your self-care. So I've put together like a few different like pillars, I'd say, that we all need to think about. And one woman I was mentioning to you, Elizabeth Gilbert, wrote a book called Big Magic, and it's about creativity, and I liked what she said, that she thinks of herself as like an animal. And she said, you have to take the dog, like, have you taken the dog out for its walk, and have you given your dog like some food? Well, no wonder he's like growly. So I think before we can be creative, we need to make sure that all those basic things have been met. Like, have you given yourself, like, have you gotten your sleep? Have you gotten, like, all those basic things? They're kind of obvious, but maybe not so obvious, because when we're in the thick of all these things we want to do, it's so easy to get distracted by the shiny things that we forget about just those basics for ourselves. Mm-hmm. The self-care, the finances. Just one other one that I've told you that I feel very passionate about. I had recently taken a workshop. I won't mention where, but I took a workshop for musicians, and they had an accountant on stage, and he was a music accountant, and he said that you need to think of yourself as writing off your whole life. Like, obviously there's a lot of things we can write off as musicians or artists, and he said, so just like keep all your receipts, which is great. Then he said, just like throw them all in a box, and then at the end of the year, take out a glass of wine and either like sort through them or send them to like an accountant like himself. And I just thought that is the worst advice you could give, students or artists or adult art. We're all adults, but I mean established artists, let's say, because that's like, to me, saying like, okay, so every night, just like throw your dirty dishes in a box, and then at the end of the year, take out a bottle of wine and wash them. Or throw all your laundry in like another separate room and don't look at it until the end of the year, and then sort through it. Like, that's just being mean to yourself. That's just mean. So my thing is just find a time during the day, whether it's once a week, once a day, or once a month, but don't let it go more than that, because then your pile will be a lot smaller than at the end of the year, and you'll also remember what those things were, because there's nothing worse, which is a whole separate thing, where like I've been audited, and having to go through, and I was audited, I have an MBA, I am organized, but it was still an incredible amount of work if you get audited, or for whatever reason, and you're thinking like, what was this for? Right? But you don't have to do that. If it's within the month, chances are you're going to remember it. And even better if it's that week. And then, so you just do it. You take your glass of wine a day or whatever, and just take those 10 minutes and just do it. And then it's done. And it's in your binder, and you feel like a star. And all you did was take 10 minutes. And I believe also that anybody can do anything for 15 minutes. Even the worst thing, it's only 15 minutes. Yeah. Right? And that's from Fly Lady. I stole that.
I wasn't going to write you. Okay. No, those are such good tips, right? I mean, and I definitely need, I'm the person with the box, but I don't even wait till the end of the year. It's just years and years. It's bad. You've seen the boxes. So I'm definitely gonna take your advice. Is that something that you're gonna, like, that you're thinking of working on, like maybe putting together that kind of a program for artists?
Yeah, that's what I am doing. I'm working on developing, like, my first, I'm just doing my first workshop. But yeah, just those basic things that I think that, yeah, it's not brain science, but it's just a matter of just having someone point it out to you, or maybe you do have your own system, and then I think just having the forum to be able to discuss it, because what might work for you, maybe I like to do it every day, you might like to do it once a month.
Or once
right?
never, once never.
Once a year.
And who here actually does, like, organizer receipts?
So she's asking, I'm just for the listeners at home, she's asking on, whether she should have a separate credit card or separate, I guess, debit card that just for business expenses.
Yeah, I think that's great if you can keep a credit card just for your business expenses. I don't like to put a lot of stuff on credit just to keep myself in check, but I definitely, when you're booking tours, and you do use your credit card, so I absolutely have something that's just for business. But I think that sometimes, like, if you're taking out money, let's say to give your band per diems, if you're a band leader, then you will be dealing in cash for certain things. So chances are you probably will use credit, you will use your debit and cash. So I keep just a really general spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet. There's tons of great bookkeeping programs, but I just like keeping it super simple right now, and that could change. But for now, that's what I've been doing. And I do, for the business, like, input each thing. So even though I would have even if I have an itemized credit card, which would show me everything, I still am going to write on that spreadsheet, like, divide up what those things are. But it's a lot easier, yeah, if it is on a credit card, if you haven't written it down on your receipts. Yeah, and as far as income, now I don't deal in cash, and I can't, for, like, just to keep things really clean for CRA purposes. But if I was taking out cash and I was outlaying cash for expenses, then I would, like, write, as soon as I always keep a pen in my purse so that when I take out or I deposit even something, sometimes people are like, what was that check for? I don't remember. Was that, like, CD baby check? What was that? Some random thing? Was that a reimbursement of a health benefit? So I always write it down so that everything's there. And then again, that feeling of I'm in control of, like, when you feel in control, you just feel better. But I think I forgot your question now. Yeah, and when I went through my audit, I did say, I'm going to be giving workshops, so I'd like to know, how I could have done things differently. But there is, if you go to the CRA website for artists, they do have all the different things that they allow and don't allow. So, for example, business meals, like, yes, you can write them off, but not the whole thing. There's a percentage of it. So my accountant would know that, but I wouldn't necessarily have known, like, what the percentage was that you can write off if you're traveling. Or if it's a business meal or expense locally. Like, there's different rules. So I think as part of the workshop, like, just make it all, like, just put it out there. Why make it so complicated for people? Like, it's this hidden thing. Like, just make it really clear. So that's, like, one thing I would want to do. Thank you. Yes, I do. The question was, do you organize them by monthly as well, like by date? Yeah, so I just find it, because I'm keeping up with it, it's easy to just, when I'm inputting it into the spreadsheet, I am doing it chronologically. So, yeah, so
will it say, like, say it was today and we bought parking here and we went out for lunch and you ended up having to go to the mall and get a dress. So how does it look on the spreadsheet?
So my spreadsheet would have, so my business spreadsheet would have the date, and then all of the different, and then I would say, like, date, the description of the item, and then the category that it falls under. So whether it's transportation or wardrobe or business supplies. So I'm itemizing each item. Yeah. And then so that what that allows you to do is, at any point, if you have your total at the bottom running, you can just quickly look, okay, so far this year, what have I spent on meals, or what have I spent on whatever it is, parking, gas. and then it's clear to you, and then if you bring it, I think the other important message that I would share is that I had an accountant who was, a competent accountant and specialized in the music industry, even so, and even though I have this business degree and like I like doing my receipts sometimes, it was a lot easier for me to just be like, okay, here's all my receipts, like you deal with it. They were organized by category, but you deal with it. I didn't double check her work. And that's the one thing that the CRA said to me was like, at the end of the day, the onus is on you. So if she made a mistake, like it's your books, you're the CEO. So to like encourage you to think of yourself as the CEO and to empower yourself. And if you feel intimidated by any part of that business, be like, okay, well that's interesting. Don't be afraid to go get help and like learn from them. So we all didn't like pop out as babies knowing how to do a spreadsheet. So it's just a matter of learning it. And it's not hard. And I maybe that's something that I feel grateful to from my dad. Like I remember crying in grade 3. I'm like, I don't understand how to estimate. And he's like, it's okay. And he would spend so much time with me on my math, tutoring me, that I ended up in the enriched math class with all these like math people who love math and wanted to be challenged. And there's me, I just want to get by. But I'm getting these really high marks because I put the time in. And I think no matter what the area is, if you put the time in, and you sacrifice other things, you can excel in that area. You don't necessarily need to.
So the question is like, how does your experience with mental health and depression and just like your life in general, how does that help you with your songwriting, and are you pulling these gems? I'm sorry, I can't say it as great as you did, but do you find that they help with your songwriting?
Yeah, I feel like. I think it's always for me in reflection that I am able to draw on that experience, because when I'm in it, or if I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling so disempowered, like the last thing I'm going to do is pick up the guitar. But I know that's not the case for a lot of other people. Like they write their best work when they are feeling down and they've got a lot of emotion. I feel like if I'm too low though, then I can't. But I definitely do feel like I try to write from a place of honesty, so that has to come into it. Yeah, for sure.
How do you feel about like the stigma about mental health and depression? Do you feel like were you nervous to talk about it, or do you talk about it much?
I've never talked about it on a stage like I am right now.
This is the first time.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
But I feel like it's important to talk about it, because the more and more people I've spoken to, I guess also with the whole, that campaign that's been on, a lot of people are opening up and sharing how they've experienced that. And I remember my sister-in-law had said she wished that her friends had been more open and honest, because when she was in it, she didn't see an out. She didn't see herself coming out of it, and she wished that someone had been honest with her to say, like, you will see the sun again. You will be able to change your perspective. So I do think it's important to talk about that, so that when you're in it, you're not feeling like the world is closing in on you.
Do you have like advice for somebody that's in it right now?
One thing I think it's very difficult to do, because a lot of people, when I talk about it to my friends, they'll say like, oh, I wish I had known that you were feeling like that. And I said, like, when I'm in that place, it's up to me to get out of it. And I think that no matter if your friends that do know, like, just would try to get me out of it, like there was this, when you're in it, it's really hard to get out. So my advice would be that to just be kind to yourself. But I feel like that's the opposite of what you want to do when you're feeling that way. But if you had any other type of issue that wasn't mental, it was like, let's say you had a cold or you broke your leg, you wouldn't be beating yourself up. Like, oh my God, you have a broken leg. Well, just start walking, like, right? You would be like taking care. You'd be like treating yourself as fragile and just really trying to rest and do things and going to the doctor.
Unless you're a hockey player.
Right, okay. Right, but I think that when we are in that place where we're not feeling our healthiest or in balance, we do the opposite, and it actually just compounds it. So the self-care, I guess that's what you were getting at too, is this if you make it part of your lifestyle, then that's preventative work to prevent you from getting to that place. Because there's ups and downs in any field, but in particular when you're self-employed, you know, you really need to, like, you are your business, you are your instrument, so it's even more important to, well, not, I mean, it's just as important to take care of yourself.
Oh.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions for Amanda?
They're like, stop talking, we need to go.
Honestly, I'm so thankful to have you here, you know, and just that you were so like honest and intimate with us and open and real, very authentic. And I think that's what we need to see. We need to see like that artists are people, and you know, we're all kind of struggling through things and trying to figure out how to get this dream that we're looking for, you know, but we're all essentially human beings and people. So thank you for being so
Oh,
human.
no, thank you so much for inviting me, and thanks for coming today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.